Father's Day is a day that we celebrate the good fathers. The qualities of a father vary greatly, but every father has something good about them, and every father has room for improvement. What qualities do the best fathers display? Which one do you need to make improvements with? Dad, I can help you. Let me show you one of the greatest fathers ever.
You're watching Timeless Talks, timeless subjects, information for life.
The father I want to share with you had two sons. One left home and threw his life away, and the other stayed home but acted like a spoiled 2-year-old. You know the kind I'm talking about. This father was known as the father of the prodigal. The younger son left home with a third of the family's property. He traveled into a far country, living it up as he went. He may have had lots of friends as long as there was lots of money. He was living a riotous life. But about the same time as the money ran out, the country had a famine. Everything dried up. All his money, all his friends were gone. There was no one to help him. And this Jewish boy got so desperate that he hired himself out to a pig farmer. His job was to feed the pigs. But what did he want? What the pigs were eating. Eventually, he did get his head on straight again. And he determined to return to his father, asking that he would be given the job of a slave, just so he could have something to eat. Now, watch this father. While the son was still a long way off, the father saw him. The father was looking for his younger son to come home. How often had the father stood looking down the road, wanting his son? How many hours had he stood watching the road? He recognized his younger son at a long distance. He knew the way he walked and his familiar movements. The father is described as running to the boy. He was not the kind of father that would punish the boy by waiting for the son to get to the father and then demand an apology. He did not make his son beg for a place with the family or as a servant, which is what the boy did really deserve. He went running with open arms. He was ready for his son to be back. He wanted his son back. What the boy had done was no longer important anymore. He was coming home. The father had compassion. The father could see the condition of the son. The son may have been filthy and thin. The father could tell that something awful had happened to him. At this point, we are not told if he had figured out what had happened, but only that the father's attitude of compassion. The father embraced him. This was not the kind of father that wanted justice first. He does not need to hear the story, have a family trial, and then pass judgment on the son with some sort of penalty for the boy's misbehavior. The embrace symbolized the first step of forgiveness. The father kissed his son. Literally, he kissed and kept kissing, more than just once, more than a few times. This expression of love, enjoyment, and excitement was given to the one who needed it most without reservation, without hesitation. This one act certainly opened the doors of the son's heart so he could begin to understand the depth of his father's unequaled forgiveness. The father listened to his son without judgment. The father heard the son speak about doing wrong and sinning against the father. He heard a son being humble and of his own self-worth. There was no condemnation for his sins against the father. There was no anger, no disappointment, just understanding and compassion. But the father did address the issue of who the son had become. The son said that he was no longer worthy of being considered a son. The son was going to be content with living with the slaves and having something to eat. But instead of giving him the simple clothes of a slave, he placed a robe on him, the best robe, the kind worn by kings and not by slaves. And the father ordered for him to be given a ring. This meant that the younger son was being placed back in the family. The ring represented sonship. Plus, the father ordered for the son to be given a pair of shoes. This illustrates how low this young man had gone. You see, only the slaves went barefoot without shoes or sandals. But the son was being given this as a way of saying, "This is my son, not a slave." The father ordered that a celebration should now begin. Can you see that the calf was already fattened? This tells us that the father had been hoping for his son to return. The father had prepared a calf in the event of his son returning. But now it is time to slaughter it and let the feasting and the celebrating begin. But what about that older brother? The older brother, who had stayed at home and obeyed his father, heard the celebration and became angry. It was the angry older brother that refused to go to the celebration of the returning younger brother. And it was the father who addressed the issue. The father went to the older son and entreated him. The father wanted peace in the family. He did not want the older son to be angry toward himself or toward his younger brother. He knew that unless this was dealt with very soon, the anger would turn into long-term bitterness and even hatred. These ill feelings were addressed promptly, and the older son laid the blame for his anger on the father. He was complaining how he never got to have a feast or have fun with his friends. He never got anything because he was always being the good son. He stayed home. He did not waste the family's money with riotous living with prostitutes. In his own mind, he thought he was being overlooked. He felt like he was not getting the attention he deserved for being good. The father gave the older son a simple explanation. You could have had anything you wanted at any time. That problem is yours. Don't blame that on me. The father made it clear that this younger brother had come home like he was coming back to life, and that alone was enough for everyone to celebrate. This father exhibited many great qualities. He was generous, hopeful, patient, and consistent. He was ready to forgive. He was watchful, energetic, and compassionate. He was understanding, loving, forgiving, and even welcoming. And don't forget his mercy and his restoring attitude. I hope that your father has all these wonderful qualities. For your sake and your father's, take a moment throughout the year, not just on Father's Day, to tell him what you think he did right well. Tell him what he did right. But I really don't think many of us fathers get to be this good. That's because the Father in this parable represents God, the Heavenly Father. But maybe you saw something you want to be better at. Then make that your goal starting right now. By the way, when do you stop being a father? Never. So when do you stop trying to be a better father? Never. If you need help being a better father or parent, please contact us here at Timeless Talks. Use this phone number and leave a message or send us a text. Use the contact page or the prayer request page. Use the search box to find out what is available here at Timeless Talks. It's all free and without any obligation. Hey, have you checked the videos that are on this page? We are excited that you watched this video. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow when you come back for other videos. But until then, well, goodbye for now.